do you have anything as a Yankee fan to say to Juan Soto?
It's over. It was one and done. And it was a great 1 year for the Yankees. Some Yankee fans are going to hate you forever for it. Some Yankee fans are going to glaze you for it. Like, I saw a sign of a guy saying, the Bronx still loves Juan Soto. No. Don't get that twisted, bro. You're the first really ever to leave the Yankees and say, I want to be a Met. And you took the money, and we'll see how it plays out. But, Yankee fans are going to hate you for it. You got to be the villain, but you're the hero to Mets fans. And you could be an icon in New York. You could be the greatest Met of all time. You never had a chance to be the greatest Yankee of all time. So let's see it, Juan. The country wants to see Yankee Stadium. The country wants to see Citi Field. The country wants to see what it looks like in October, and I think we have 2 teams that will get there.
Welcome into Scrap the Playbook with today's guest, a voice of New York sports, particularly the New York Yankees, a particularly powerful voice of the Yankees, New Jersey's own Keith McPherson.
Yeah, it's me. Straight out of Jersey, by way of Hoboken, Jersey Shore, in New York. And I can just smell it in the air as I was walking here. I'm like, it's March. It's going to turn from spring training into opening day. And, like, we didn't plan this, but we're both wearing, the team jackets, hats. It's that time of year.
Yeah, the vibes are high. Like, I was, going to say, it's having a moment right now, New York baseball. Like, it hasn't, at least for me, hasn't felt this way in a long time. But I've always been a fan of both of these teams being good at the same time. So yeah. I'm super hyped for the season. So let's just stop beating around the bush, Let's just get into this, because I feel like we have things we need to just hash out before the season.
Sure.
And I'll start with just the Yankees before we get into Yankees-Mets talk, all right? I feel like in this era of Yankees baseball, right, this sort of Boone, Aaron Judge era of the Yankees, right, for most teams, this has, been a successful era, right?
Very successful.
Lots of playoff appearances, deep playoff runs, but that World Series just hasn't been there, right? And it was really close last year. And I just want to get, a vibe check on how you're feeling as a Yankee fan right now going into this season.
I'm in the middle. I'm 50-50. They did end one drought. They got to the World Series. They won the American League. But Yankee fans are spoiled. We were all born and bred and raised and taught about winning the World Series or nothing, World Series or bust every year. The 27-time champions, Yankee Stadium. So when you don't win, how can you market that? When you don't win, how can you bring up young fans? There are young fans now. We get another year further, right? They don't remember 2009. So where I'm at right now with this team is, okay, the bar is always World Series. You got to the World Series, embarrassed yourself last year. Now the bar is even a tick higher because you got to get back to the World Series and win it. And with all the talk of the American League is weak, also, there's this one guy that hit the home run that sent the Yankees to the World Series last year, and for some odd reason, he went across town. So that is hanging over their heads. And yeah, we've got a lot to be seen in this short window where Giancarlo Stanton is a year older and hurt again. Judge is a year older. Cole is a year older. So it's the drought, the long drought, which is one of the longest World Series winning droughts in Yankee history, and a closing window for your superstars.
I already said we'd stop beating around the bush. Let's just get right into Juan Soto. I want to just see.
You said his name. I was trying to see how long we could go
who should not
without.
Be named. We're addressing Juan Soto like we address Voldemort now. But look, I want to just, in your most honest way, take me back to August, July. Did you think that this was actually a real possibility? If you can put yourself back then, of Juan Soto leaving for the Mets.
So I'll say this. I didn't want to believe it because
in denial a little bit.
I am a bleacher creature. I'm out there doing the roll call. This guy, Juan Soto, he's got the loudest roll call out of anybody's name, louder than Judge. I'm we're trying to sell him on we love you. You're a Yankee. Stay with us. We're going to the World Series and winning it. You can't leave. But I also, as a baseball fan and just, I don't know, knowing some simple math, he's a Boris client. He had waited his whole life to get the free agency, and the richest owner in the sport owns the Mets and was not going to be outbid for this guy. It was a perfect fit and need and a time, and he had front row seats to watch Juan Soto, right? Juan Soto is in New York every night. He's seeing and hearing about what Juan Soto's doing. So August and the summer of last year, no. I'm so focused on, oh, this guy, he's got the pinstripes on. He's smelling the Yankees. Like, he's not going to want to leave. He's rubbing shoulders, old timers day with Derek Jeter. And I didn't want to believe it, but I knew in the back of my mind he was always going to the money, and the richest owner in the sport did what he was supposed to do and got him.
Yeah, and again, just from your honest POV, do you think that huge contract, the 15 years, $765 million, I want to say it was, do you think the Mets will end up regretting that contract?
No, hell no. I said it's already been such a party. It's already been such a success. Just the feeling that Sunday night, I went to bed. As soon as I saw it come across the ticker on MLB Network at the winter meetings, Juan Soto, Mets. I didn't even need to see the rest of the details. I found the rest of the details out the next
phone
day.
Across the room.
I just nope, TV off. I'm just gonna act like this didn't happen. But it was such a win for the Mets fans and the Mets fan base, and it was such an L for the Yankees. So like the Mets fans are coming off the NLCS, right? Taking a magic carpet ride from not being sure when you're playing 162, the last game in Atlanta, if you're even going to be in.
Yes.
What's going to be? Then going to Milwaukee, Pete Alonso hits a home run, and then obviously the Mets turning up against the arch rival Phillies, and then you get to the series against the Dodgers. You take 2 games off the Dodgers, but like people are dancing in the streets at Citi Field. Like it was just such a crazy,
I was there, man. I was a dancer there.
I don't have to tell you, right? OMG, Candelita. All of the different things that popped up, from Grimace to the playoff pumpkin to the rally pimp and Glizzy Izzy and Seymour Wiener. It was just one of those years where there were so many different things going. Hawk Tua girl even pulled up to throw a first pitch. It was one of those years.
Every meme was there, yeah.
It was one of those years where, like, there's no way you could have expected that the way that they started the season. So great season for the Mets, and then capped off with the signing of Juan Soto in free agency. Opposite for the Yankees. You get 1 year Juan Soto, you get to the World Series, you lose, you get embarrassed from Nestor Cortez giving up the first ever walk-off grand slam to, like, Game 3 not being able to manufacture any runs to Game 5. Honestly having the game and then having the worst inning we've ever saw. So it's like you lose the World Series and you lose Juan Soto.
Yeah.
It's just a tough time.
Look, I'll give you my honest take of the Yankee situation right now, because I obviously am a Mets fan. I'm relishing in the whole saga and everything. At the same time, I do think the Yankees were like right there in the World Series. Like some things could have gone different ways. Obviously Game 5 is the big like what if, but they still like made upgrades to the roster outside of Juan Soto, right? Yeah. Like the rotation is nasty. Like the Yankees rotation is nasty. What is your confidence level in sort of the like replacement of Juan Soto through other areas, whether it's the pitching staff, Goldschmidt at first base? Like, how do you think they can realistically get back to the World Series? And are you confident in that?
Yeah, I would say that when you lose a World Series and you have guys like Joe Kelly and Chris Taylor mocking the Yankees defense and saying how, the scouting report told us just put the ball in play and they would have self-inflicted wounds. When you miss out on a Juan Soto, it gives you the opportunity to actually address those needs. And I've been saying it's a philosophy change, right? It was, the Bash brothers. It was a dynamic duo with Soto and Judge in the lineup where eventually one of them is going to get you or both of them are going to get you. We're going to hit home runs. We're going to beat you over the head. Now the philosophy changes. Let's tighten up this defense. Let's tighten up the screws on this thing. Let's pitch. Let's have the best rotation, best bullpen. And the first thing they did with the money was let's go get Max Fried, right? So now you're not relying so much on Carlos Rodon when you get to Game 2 or however they line up the pitching, right? You have Garrett Cole, you have Max Fried. Game 1 and Game 2, like there's not that much better of a 1-2 punch out there. I mean, maybe the Dodgers. We won't speak. I didn't want to even say the Dodgers. Anyway, going to get Max Fried, making the trade for Devin Williams, bringing in Paul Goldschmidt, bringing in Cody Bellinger. I'm like, they assembled an NL All-Star team. Like, if these guys can turn back the clock, if some of the young guys on the Yankees can take a step forward, they could have a better team in some different areas. But, like, I watched every at-bat of Juan Soto. I've been on the radio every night saying, like, I can troll Mets fans, I can hate on Mets fans, I can make jokes, but I'm never going to be the Yankee fan that tries to discredit Juan Soto. I saw him. I watched him.
Right.
I know what he is, and he's going to post. He's going to show up, and he's going to be the difference. He's going to win the Mets some games. And when you get to the postseason, like, he's unflappable. He's unfazed.
He showed that.
He loves it when the lights are brightest. He's going to be the guy that, like, hits the big home run and turns up that you can count on. So you have that for the next decade and a half.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, at least I'm trying to think back at other times in my life, at least, when the Mets were on par with the Yankees in terms of being playoff teams. Like, right now, we already said the team that will not be named.
The deferrals, yeah.
Yes. But they're with both of them are easily within, I would say, top 5 World Series favorites.
Yeah.
I think that's safe to say.
No, it's facts.
And has there ever been like a moment where they've both been this good at the same time? Because I'm thinking about like 2006. Obviously, there was a Subway World Series and stuff.
Sure, 2000.
But just the narratives and everything going on right now. This is like as heated as it's ever been, I feel like.
2022, they ended up both being like first place teams and getting, but like that wasn't the conversation going into the season. That wasn't what people were predicting. Now people are predicting, I think the Yankees and Mets have the same odds. I think they're like plus 800 to, get to the World Series or win the World Series. The hype is real. The stars are real. And I think for the first time in a long time, like, we're expecting them to get back to where they were last year, right?
Yeah.
They were 2 of the final 4 teams. That's what we're expecting. We're expecting a championship series in the American League and the National League to have teams from New York. And if you go back just 2 years ago, where we got, Arlington versus Phoenix in the World Series, that was lame as hell. Like,
I forgot that happened.
Exactly. Like, the country wants to see Yankee Stadium. The country wants to see Citi Field. The country wants to see these crazy baseball fans in the baseball capital. Like, this is the baseball capital.
Yes.
They want to see what it looks like in October, and I think we have 2 teams that will get there.
Do you think there's ever a world where the Mets overtake the Yankees as the big brother in New York?
That is my nightmare. I've actually talked about this nightmare where I tell Yankee fans to chill. Stop telling Mets fans that they're little brother forever, what they're never going to be. They have the infrastructure for the next decade and a half to actually overtake the Yankees as far as, like, it's going to be tough because the brand that the Yankees has built. Like, look at me. I'm wearing every Yankee World Series patch on me. I have all these pins. I'm a diehard Yankee fan. Like, I get it. But what I'm saying is, when you have the richest owner in the sport paired with one of the smartest minds in the sport, with superstars in the sport like Francisco Lindor, like Juan Soto, and now a fan base that's like, this is our time. All it takes is winning. That's the main thing. You have to win. If the Mets win more than the Yankees in the next 10 to 15 years, if they win 1 World Series before the Yankees, that's where you start to see a shift in the town.
I mentioned the sort of Boone Judge era, right, of being like a lot of success, just hasn't gotten over that final hump yet.
Yeah.
But with Aaron Judge in particular, like, because I see so many different reactions from Yankees fans on Twitter, on wherever, about, of course, he is at worst a top 2 player in baseball, I'd say, and just hasn't had the postseason success, right? Particularly last postseason. It's like, in your mind, from what you gauge from Yankees fans, where does Aaron Judge stand with Yankees fans right now?
Oh, that's 50-50 too. As I say, I'm 50-50 on, like, how I feel about this season, because baseball is unpredictable. Like, I feel like there are some fans that are legit mad at him for dropping that pop-up.
Yeah.
That's what started that terrible inning. There are fans that are just legit mad at him for all the strikeouts in the postseason and, like, having a ridiculous MVP regular season and then swinging out of his shoes, not being able to come through so many times in October where Stanton and Soto had to carry him. So that's one half of the fan base. But there's another half of the fan base that absolutely loves this guy. He's larger than life. All rise, number 99, Aaron Judge, the best player I've ever seen. Judge will get it. Judge is going to do it. Judge hits home runs. Judge is the man. He carries himself. He's the captain. But I always say the greatest rivalry in baseball is Yankee fans versus other Yankee fans.
You just mentioned it because I had this question for you. Like, what are your thoughts on the shave policy and that suddenly being abolished now after however many years it's been?
I can't grow a beard. I see you got a little beard, but that's always been fine in Queens. Years ago, I was just very much like just brainwashed by the Yankees, where I was like, it's the Yankees. you're supposed to shave.
Bro,
Everybody
I feel
in
you.
history.
I thought it was kind of cool at some point. I was just like, oh, it's a tradition, you know?
It just goes with the Yankee brand. Like, you talk
Yeah.
about the global brand, it's something that you know. Like, hey, all of these players shave. So much so that, like, players get traded or signed, and a lot of them, they shave preemptively before they have to just to get used to it. But it's 2025. We're in the future now. There's just so many things that have changed about society, and it's just almost like not acceptable anymore to tell grown men that they have to shave to be a baseball player, when they've even loosened up with some of that stuff in the military. You know, I had Cameron Maben on my show, who 2 years ago, Cameron Maben was like, you guys don't realize how many players think this is whack. They don't think this is cool. Like, you don't know how many players behind the scenes were like, I'd rather go somewhere else. Because also in the future that we're in, being in New York is great, but like marketing stuff is all digital now. You don't have to be on, you know, Fifth Avenue and Broadway to be big now. Like, so if you could keep your beard and the money's all the same, people rather go elsewhere. There's going to be a young player in the future that they draft or want to sign, and his whole brand and aura and moxie is like his long hair, his beard, maybe he's got green hair, and they're going to be like, do we let this guy do this? He hits bombs. He's a plus defender.
Yeah.
Or do we tell him, no, you fall in line like, you know, Bernie Williams had to do. You fall in line like Derek Jeter had to do. No, they finally got ahead of it, and I think it's for the best.
I think that's what probably really clicked with the ownership of the
Yeah, you know, and I hate when they try to, you know, bring, well, what would George do? You hear Yankee fans say that all the time. Oh, George is rolling in his grave. No, George isn't rolling in his grave because they changed the facial hair policy. He's rolling in his grave because they haven't won the World Series in 15 years.
Speaking of like new changes and everything, we can sort of shift into some MLB rule changes, because I'm honestly curious of your perspective from following the league so closely, and it's to what you were saying earlier, even just about Yankees fans. It's like everyone is divided on new MLB rules.
Yeah.
For the ones that have been implemented, at least, like the pitch clock, the ghost runner, do you think that those have been good for the game?
The ABS that we're seeing now, the automatic balls and strikes,
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that. I was in Seattle for the 2023 All-Star game, and that's the first time I saw it. They had the Futures game, the like up-and-coming kids, and these kids are stepping out of the box, and you know they're challenging, and you get to see it on the big screen play out. It gives you just like this suspense and this immediate payoff and this ooh and ah that like I think baseball needs.
Pretty cool, yeah.
And for how many years did we see guys get rung up like, oh, come on, that's a ball, that's how the inning ends, or like just egregious things. Getting the call right is what matters the most. I love that. Now, the ghost runner on second, Manfred's man on second, as I call it, that to me doesn't make any sense. But I understand.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. It makes sense for television. It makes sense for the casuals. It makes sense for the people that are at a game and are like, oh, I want to go to the bar. I want to go eat. I want to go home. Actual people that played baseball and watch baseball like us, I'll watch a 19-inning game. We'll never get another 19-inning game.
No, we won't.
We'll never be in there for 12 innings, 13 innings, 14, because the runner on second base, it's fake baseball, and it creates a different strategy where now all these guys are trying to just find a way, bunt, or intentionally walk a guy. Like, there's just so much strategy just to get that runner in and win the game like that, and it's shortened these games, and the pitch clock has shortened these games, and it's all in an attempt to make baseball faster and more appealing to the casual fan that like is coming in now. And with everything going on with like MLB and ESPN and TV rights and that type of stuff, it's for the future. It's so that baseball doesn't die out.
You didn't want to talk about this team, but I just wanted your opinion again, because that's why you're here. I'm just trying to get your opinion on these hot topics. So the team that plays in LA that won the World Series, they obviously, we're talking about evil empires. They have the biggest target on their back by far. And this whole deferral of payments, being able to absorb just large contract after large contract and just kind of kick the can down the line.
Not fair, but yeah.
Do you think it's not fair? It's not good for the game?
It's a loophole, and they've exploited it. And hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. If you're allowed to do it, you're allowed, deferred money, Bobby Bonilla.
Yes.
It's existed for a while, but the way that they've done it, like they go and get Tommy Edman, and you got to defer money on Tommy Edman's deal.
It's everyone now.
Him. But that's the thing. As a team, as a collective, they're all like, yeah, give me my bonus, defer the money, and they are now just like their roster is so stacked. It's so ridiculous. The names that they have, the All-Stars they have, the MVPs they have, the pitching they have, like, how can they not win? But then that's why we watch, right? Something's going to happen. They're going to have injuries. Somebody's going to get hot. They might get cold. and we watch. But no, we're heading for a lockout after 2026 because now it's not just like fans crying like this isn't fair. It's the owners.
The owners are.
It's the owners.
That's what's
going
to make a difference.
They could never build a team like this without all this deferred money. They're deferring over $1 billion, and like Ohtani should have had the largest contract in sports history by far because he's just a unicorn. What he's able to do, he started it. Him coming in and deferring all that money, basically like, yeah, when I go back to, go home back to Japan, I'll be cashing out then. I want to win now. It started off this chain reaction of all these other guys being like, yeah, you could defer my money so we have a better team. Mm-hmm. But everybody in baseball can't do that. The Guggenheim partners can. They have private equity firms. They have banks. Like, this is what they do. Like, they have it down to a science. It's a loophole that they're exploiting, and they've overdone it. And, like, they won the World Series. And then they did it again. And if they win back-to-back World Series for the first time since the Yankees three-peat, like, we're going to lockout. We're definitely going to have a lockout after 2026.
I have one more thing here because I can't skip it in my notes before we get into you and your story. And we've already talked about it, but I just want, like, an official statement. If you have anything as a Yankee fan to say to Juan Soto directly, you can go into Cam, too, if you want. Just a direct message to Juan Soto from the Yankee fan.
It's over, bro. And you're home now with the Mets. That is the last team you're going to play for. You will be there for 15 years. My son turns 2 next month. I'll be teaching my son how to drive by the time that you're getting ready to hang it up. Like, that's a ridiculous time frame. So, like, it's over. It was one and done. And it was a great 1 year for the Yankees. Some Yankee fans are going to hate you forever for it. Some Yankee fans are going to glaze you for it. Like, I saw a sign of a guy saying, the Bronx still loves Juan Soto? No. Don't get that twisted, bro. Like, when you step in the Yankee Stadium, you are an enemy. You are hated. You heard the F Altuve chants. Those are going to quickly turn into F Juan Soto. But I know this guy is a dog. He's going to be motivated by that stuff. And the same way I'm talking about the Mets being big brother, winning is what does it. Not any of this social media stuff, not any of this other stuff. You could have 8 different jersey combinations. You could have Grimace on the subway. You could do all this stuff. Winning is what does it. If Juan Soto turns the Mets into a winner and they win a World Series, none of it matters. So I would say I don't wish you luck because I want the Yankees to win a World Series. I want the Yankees to be the dominant force. But I did enjoy watching you in pinstripes. I know how dominant of a player you are. And just understand now, this is a rivalry, and you're one of the first, if not, you're the first really ever to leave the Yankees and say, I want to be a Met, and you took the money, and we'll see how it plays out. But, Yankee fans are going to hate you for it. You got to be the villain, but you're the hero to Mets fans, and you can be an icon in New York. You could be the greatest Met of all time. You never had a chance to be the greatest Yankee of all time. So let's see it. Let's see it, Juan.
You're getting me fired up for the Subway Series, man. It's going to be
insane.
Crazy.
It's always ridiculous.
Yeah. It's always.
But now it's going to be another level. People are going to be fighting. People always are fighting.
100%.
But like it's going to be cutthroat. It's going to be nasty.
Now I want to shift gears completely and get into you and your story. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. But look, I want to talk about you and your journey in sports media, right? And I actually kind of want to work a little bit backwards here. So I kind of want to start with WFAN and everything that you've done with them.
Yeah.
Look, I feel like sports radio and sports media, obviously sports media has like exploded in many different ways in recent years, but sports radio is still this very prominent thing that so many people listen to every single day.
They can't kill it.
But for you coming in as like a younger radio host at that station, right? All these sort of legends that have been there. I mean, what was that? At first, what was that like? Like, was that intimidating for you?
Of course, it was hard. Shout out to Steve Summers, who always talked about the Metropolitans and was a big Mets fan, still shows up to opening day. When I got the call that I was going to, quote unquote, replace Steve Summers, I was kind of like, I don't think that's a good idea. I didn't know that's what I was auditioning for. I didn't know when I had my audition it was to become the new nighttime host, and Steve was going to retire, and I was going to be in his spot.
What did they tell you for the audition?
They had a lot of people interviewing. They had a lot of people auditioning. They didn't tell me anything. They said, would you like the chance to be on WFAN? So, like you said, there's so many legends, and there's so many guys that have been in those seats for years, for so long. It's so hard to crack into that space. I thought I was just going to be a fill-in or a weekend person or maybe do a couple overnights. I've never done an overnight. And now when I do the weekend, it's a day part and it's like promoted. And what I'll say is like, when I first came in, I came in with no other radio experience outside of going to college and getting my degree in radio and television. it was hard because this is New York, and there's a ton of critics, and there's a ton of people that just like won't give you the opportunity to grow and become and learn the craft. And I obviously had to fill big shoes. And I'm also black. Like being a young black guy, like that was historic. There never was I came in at age 34. That's super young to be a full-time host. And to be black and like unapologetically black with like a backwards hat and Jordans on and locks like I have and like rapping on air and like talking and telling the stories it had never been done on WFAN before. So it was groundbreaking, but like it also came with a lot of hate and negativity. Like I had like mail in my mailbox that I opened up with the N-word in it. I had to turn my DMs off because there were just anonymous accounts, people saying you're DEI. I didn't even know what the term DEI meant or what it was for. Like I don't know. But like I'm glad that happened because like I was able to channel it where like some nights you're tired as hell. Some nights you don't have it. Some nights you don't know what you're gonna open with. But I'm like, yo, I gotta kick these haters. I'm like, every time I go on, I gotta kill them. I gotta make a hater mad. And if it's a racist, like I'm going to be so good that they forget about my race.
Totally.
I'm gonna be so good that they hear something I say and they might hate on me, but they're gonna be like, that was catchy, or that was clever, or that was a good take. And there's so many people that I have turned from where they'll call them like, when you first started, I didn't like you, or you first started, but now I love your show. So yeah, it was definitely hard, but like when you're chasing dreams, there's gonna be some nightmares. When you're climbing mountains, it's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
You don't have to answer this one, but you had a pretty viral moment when Jon Heyman on your show.
I didn't do anything.
I know, but this clip made the rounds. I remember seeing it happen.
Oh, no regrets. It's like
at some point, I think someone could probably drop it if they're a nice person.
What I think is it just like how I introduced you. Everybody in baseball knows who you are. So one, it's a credit to your work, your following, and how.
By the way, I won't be going on with you again. The whole thing has been a disaster.
That's okay.
I can't even believe you said that. To question my integrity.
Are you being serious right now?
I'm being serious, yeah.
Jon.
Asking me if I'm getting a cut because I have a relationship with an agent. That's outrageous. I know you're not a journalist. You don't know anything about this. I know you don't, but that's an outrageous comment. You should know that
it's
much.
Friday night at 8:30, Jon.
You should know that much.
And I'm not
done with you.
I am not taking this that
WFAN.
serious.
Goodbye.
Jon, thank you for joining us,
I can't even believe it.
Thank you,
I
Jon.
can't even believe it.
Thank you, Jon.
Literally, I had the same thought. I actually remember listening to this at the gym, literally. And I just had my earbuds in, and it seemed like a very normal conversation.
Yeah.
Even the way you presented it was just like
joking around.
banter, joking around.
Friday night.
But take me through that clip with Jon Heyman and sort of like the ensuing what happened afterwards.
Well, first off, if Jon Heyman sees this, or when I do see Jon, I want to thank Jon first, because it did go viral and it did bring a lot of eyes and ears and attention to me. But then I also apologize again. That's one thing I always say as a man. You got to be man enough to apologize. We've got too many people out here that just think that they're like, I'm man enough to apologize that like, hey, what I did ruffled your feathers and I didn't intend to. What I did, you took a certain way that I didn't think even when we were talking about. So like, it was a 9-minute interview. I had him on at, 8:20 on a Friday night. And it was in the middle of all of the Juan Soto talk. And I'm such a baseball fan and a fan of Jon Heyman. When I introduced him, people did podcasts breaking down the interview. The first thing I said is, this is Jon Heyman. Everybody in baseball knows him. He's been doing this stuff for 30 years.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
yeah.
I'm so grateful that he joined me because like that brings credibility to my show. He even tweeted out that he was going on my show. But I don't take myself so seriously, and I know that I'm the nighttime host. And I know that I'm young, and I know there are young people listening. And as we talk about haters in the comments, there's also people in the comments cracking jokes. The comments section sometimes is funnier than the post.
Of course.
And like, if you're online, the jokes about Heyman, I didn't write those jokes. I didn't write those things. What I did was take online to on air. And I did not know that he was going to be so sensitive about, one, the Arson Judge stuff. His tweet from 2 years ago. And you know what I also didn't realize? That day was the 2-year anniversary of him tweeting out Arson Judge appears to be headed to the San Francisco Giants. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I didn't have that in my calendar. That didn't pop up on Apple. Hey.
Tentpole. It's 2-year anniversary.
So what I was saying to him was like, John, people made T-shirts about that. That's something in history now. Like San Francisco Giants fans, Yankee fans, baseball fans, like we remember that because it sent shockwaves through the baseball world. Like Judge is leaving the Yankees, but he didn't. And I even said to him that with the typo in it, that made me believe, no, this isn't official. This is just kind of like a knee-jerk reaction thing. And he's like, well, if you're a nice guy, you could forget about it. And I'm like, no, but what I'm telling you is you need to embrace it.
Have the sense of humor.
Yeah, you need to wear it, laugh at yourself, and realize it's never going away. And it also didn't hurt your credibility. Okay, we continue, and we're talking about that night Clay Holmes signed. And that was great. We did the Clay Holmes stuff, and now I'm like, that was a parallel into a former Yankee, Juan Soto potentially going. It is so telegraphed that he covers Boris clients. He did a sit-down lunch with Jose Iglesias about how Jose Iglesias wants to come back to the Mets. But leave me out of that, right? So what I said to him was, jokingly, hey, if Juan Soto signs for $750 million, you got to get 10% of that. That's a lot of money. And he kind of was like, oh, no, I'm not getting any. But then, I kept because he was laughing, I kept playing into it. I'm like, you should check with Scott on that. Like 10%, that's a lot. I'm like, you sure? I'm like, you're not getting any cut, like whatever. But I was doing it in a playful manner where anybody that's listened to my show or knows me knows, I wasn't trying to slander the guy. I wasn't trying to say, you're on the take for Scott Boras. How much is he paying you? I
didn't get that at all from listening to it.
But that's what people turned it into online. Mike Vaccaro from the Post, if I ever see you, I'm just going to check your temperature and see what type of time you're on. Like you were writing that, this is libel, this is slander. You can't accuse a guy of being on the take. Like, nah, bro, we're not in your old times. Like, we're not in the 1970s. In 2025, we joke around about these things because they're not that serious. We're talking baseball on a Friday night on the Fan. So that went viral because I think somebody texted him like, hey, this guy is making fun of you. This guy is disrespecting you. And also, I don't think John had that level of respect for me.
Yeah.
Because he'd said something like, you're not a journalist, you don't know how any of this works. I did go to school for my job. Like, I have a communication degree in radio and television. I didn't want to be a pen pusher, homie. I didn't want to be like you. I'm not like you. Yeah. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But he's like, you're a journalist, you don't understand. And he's like, I'm so done with WFAN. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And so that gets clipped, and that's the clip heard around the world. They had it on Part of My Take. I was listening one night where somebody was like, they've been playing it on WEIE or WEEI in Boston.
It was everywhere.
It was everywhere because everyone was following the Juan Soto sweepstakes. And the last thing I'll say about it is I always try to be different. You have to stand out. You can't do the same thing that everybody else does. So that day, I actually went home to visit my mom. I went back to the shore, and I was just so busy. My producer booked him for me, and as I'm driving back up to the city, an hour and a half to the city, I'm like, how do I approach John at the end of the week and ask him some things or bring some things to the table so the interview doesn't sound like Michael Kay's interview, the interview doesn't sound like his Bleacher Report interview, the interview doesn't sound like the segment he did on MLB Network, all three that I heard.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm going to lighten the mood and joke with him about the jokes that are literally written online about him. He didn't take it as a joke. I apologize. But thank you, John. Like, that moment made people say, I don't know who Keith McPherson is, but I'm listening now. I don't know who this guy is, but I'm checking for him now. My followers went up. All that content went up. My bosses, I didn't get fired over it. My bosses are like, yo, that's the only viral moment out of all of these weeks talking about Juan Soto. The radio meters spiked.
Yeah.
Like, it became something that I couldn't have imagined when we booked him. So I can only thank him for it, but also apologize because, like, you can't joke with everybody.
I feel like you've hit so many different areas of like social media, but also different podcasts you've had. Like, you used to have Nets podcasts,
yeah.
right? And you still talk Nets all the time.
Yeah.
But like, do you ever go back and just think about how many individual pieces of content you have made over the last 10 years?
Thousands.
Isn't that insane?
And even like working at MTV, and then I worked at Fubo TV and Rock Nation, and I did their content anonymously. Mm-hmm. And all of the
behind the scenes
brainstorming meetings, and then all of the calendars with content rollouts, and thinking of ideas and clipping and learning how I used to edit in Final Cut and then Adobe Premiere and then pushing that stuff out, and I have no idea how many pieces of content, but like, I quit that job at Rock Nation. I remember I bought a new MacBook. I bought a Canon PowerShot G7X, and I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm going to vlog. I'm going to podcast. I'm going to now unlock my social accounts because I used to have locked private Instagram and Twitter because I didn't want my bosses to see some of the stuff I was doing. Even like, remember Snapchat? I haven't been on Snapchat in years. You know, once I unlocked my accounts and started building in 2018, it honestly happened a lot faster than I anticipated. I'm like, this is going to take a decade. I'll probably get some traction by 2028.
Yeah. But this is, I did want to get to this point too of like, I feel like you, especially lately, I've seen on like your McPherson brand and everything, you're really about branding and marketing yourself. Can you speak to just like people who want to get into this industry of the importance of branding yourself, especially in social media?
So that's what I've learned too. So many people want to work for a radio station or a TV company but you don't own that. You're still collecting a paycheck. You're still going to do what they tell you to do. In this era, you need to own your own. Like now I own my own LLC. I have my own YouTube channel. They can never take my Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And as those keep building, I have my own IP. And so, cuts could happen where you're seeing all the time. I work at Odyssey. Just yesterday, they laid off a bunch of people at Odyssey. They could come in, which they're not, but they could come in and be like, Keith, we can't afford to pay a nighttime host. We're going to automate the night. We're going to have a national nighttime show that runs. Mm-hmm. What would I do? Now, and I've gone through the quitting my corporate social media manager job, collecting my unemployment and having nothing,
right,
to know better now. And then also I've done enough contract negotiations and talking to bosses and corporate stuff that I'm like, you need to have something that is yours. So for people that are out there that, and young people hit me up all the time, how do I get in the industry? I'm like, bro, this is the time. I'm like, if I would have started this didn't exist when I was in college. So what I'm telling all these kids now is stop hustling to try to get accepted by mainstream media and traditional media. Mm-hmm. Build your own stuff so that you're attractive to them, and then you can name your price.
Look, Keith, that's all I had for you, man. I really appreciate you talking about your journey and everything.
Thanks.
And look, man, it's been a blast.
I appreciate it.
Dog, this season's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, we'll have to do something Subway Series. Even if it's just you show up to Yankee Stadium and we kind of run it back. I'm excited to see how this all comes out. Thank you everybody behind the scenes that's watching and editing and helping. And I look forward to sharing this and you guys clipping it up. And
it's gonna be a blast.
We'll see how it plays.
Thank you for watching Scrap the Playbook. Don't forget to like and comment on this video. And for more content like this, subscribe to the Whistle channel.